one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You have to be there.
Alright, it's one of our favourite slots of the week. It's You Had to Be There, and our guest this week is James Tracy. James, how the hell are you?
Not too bad, gents. In a nicer environment than usual.
That looks pretty sweet.
So we're over here with the family in Greece at the moment. So it's a slight upgrade from sitting beside you two at the studio.
And the weather looks terrible. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one for lying out, so I'm taking solitaire in the shade as usual.
Okay, well, we're glad to distract you from the difficulty of finding shade in the Greece sunshine. People know the premise of this at this stage. You pick 5 things that have lived with you and stayed with you and kind of got you out of your seat. The first one, though, I want to start with from in sequence here is all the way back in the year 2000 when Ruby Walsh won the Grand National for the first time on Papillon. And people probably remember this, but loads of people are probably too young to remember. But it was his father, Ted Walsh's horse, and that was where the drama and I think the emotion of the whole thing came. But for you, it was a very local story.
Yeah, incredible. So, like Ruby Walsh, I grew up in Kill Village in Kildare, and Ruby Walsh was one of the main, still is one of the biggest stars to come out of the village. But the Grand National is such a big deal in general, but to have someone who grew up the road riding in it with a real chance on his father's horse, and for anyone who watched the race, very dramatic finish. He looks like he's got to win, and then he ends up kind of finding a second gear with about half a furlong left and wins it by about 2 lengths. It was unbelievable. And then what unfolded from that, our primary school was going nuts, everyone's going nuts, but they brought Papillon. Actually, they do it in this day and age with health and safety. Papillon came into the schoolyard. Everyone, like I said, it was about 1,000 kids all around. In fairness, it was probably the calmest horse in the world. There was a huge parade up the town. There was people coming out from the local, hopping on his back, riding out the finish. How there wasn't an accident, I don't know, but incredible memory, and they're well and truly a massive part of the village, and it was unbelievable to see Ruby be able to get it done for his family and also for Kill and for his father.
Yeah, because I think most people would have grown up watching Ted as an analyst on telly, and sometimes you forget that actually he was still an active trainer the whole way through that.
Yeah, and it gives a feeling of, there's a lot of horses are a big thing in Kildare, especially horse racing, and it's the feeling of someone who winning something that you think is so unattainable, unachievable, and it gives beliefs to kind of the next generation. So that's the amazing part of it. But for us, the crack and the excitement of having someone who you see at mass, someone you see in the shop, and they're winning kind of one of the hardest things to do in horse racing. It's kind of you want to win a Gold Cup, you want to win the Grand National, you want to win the Irish Grand National. They're the kind of the big 3 in jumps racing, especially from where I'm from.
Were you into racing automatically in advance of that? Did that get you into racing afterwards?
So would have been everything horsey. So my sister would have show jumped internationally, and we would have hunted, and we would have went to the races. Punchestown was and Mace Race course was part of our DNA and our yearly schedule. So anything to do with horses, we were kind of. I grew up around it, and every weekend we were at a show, at a meet, at a hunt. It was everything like that.
And the Grand National, a staple probably of your house growing up, regardless. But to see someone from your county winning it that must have been so special.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. As I said, the crack, the village, I was far too young then. I think I was 9 years old, so I wasn't on the pints. But I don't think there was any kegs left untapped by the end of the weekend. It was unbelievable for the village, and he's a sporting legend in racing, but for Kill Village it was a big day.
So did you say there was lads just running out from the pub, hopping on the horse and reenacting the end of the race?
yeah so loose, but I think in reality, if anyone would have known the Walshes, or I wouldn't be surprised if those lads maybe had worked in the yard, or I'm sure they weren't just letting randoms, but I'm a 9-year-old kid, obviously I'm just seeing these random lads coming out of the boozer as he's walking up and hopping on the horse and doing the full thing. So it was great crack, but it was one for the memory book, all right, and a special day for the village.
If you hadn't got involved in rugby, would there have been an interest in a career in racing or in show jumping or in horses?
So I certainly didn't have the frame to be a jockey, but show jumping, I show jumped from and hunted from about 6 years old up to about 12, and I was never any use at it, but I enjoyed it. So I used to just tag along and do it, but it was never something that kind of caught my eye, mainly because I wasn't good at it, but I definitely enjoyed it.
If your sister did it for Ireland, she must have been pretty good.
Yeah, she was all right. She's handy. She's still pretty good. But the benefit was in ponies is that it's kind of done by age, and depending on the size of the pony. So when she'd move on to the next level, I'd get the hand-me-down. So I did be quite competitive when I got the hand-me-down at the lower levels. But that was my cheat code, unfortunately. When I tried to jump at the next step up in the elite level, I was way off. But I had good crack doing it, and I loved hunting as well. It was good fun.
Okay.
It was.
The second one that we have on your list is actually also in Kildare, not that far away. I'm fairly sure it's at the K Club. It is. Rory McIlroy winning the Irish Open in 2016.
Yeah. So again, it was one of those moments where I didn't anticipate. I wasn't there to. I wasn't following Rory, or I wasn't. There. Like Ruby, where I had the same attachment, but we'd managed, myself, my wife, or girlfriend at the time. We were going out a little while, but we went down because it's only up the road from where I grew up, and we'd blagged our way into the clubhouse somehow, and we're again blagged our way onto the balcony. You see that iconic shot that he takes, but as it unfolded, of course, my wife's at the bar. I'm now knowing that he was 2 behind going into 16, so I kind of pricked my ears up of what's going on, and he's about 253 out, I think, and hits a 5-wood. They have a plaque now on the fairway where he hit it from, but hits a 5-wood to about 3 feet. And it was one of those moments where you just know, okay, this was something special. And it was him, he's already, I think he was 27 at that point, so he was well known and everything like that, but I think he was coming into the peak of his powers, and he was amazing to watch. But yeah, just seeing that live, glad I didn't turn around and follow my wife to the bar and miss that iconic moment. But it was just one of those golf moments and sporting moments where everyone around was just like, wow, like when everything's on the line. I think he might have been 1 shot up, but he was definitely 1 behind going into 16. I think he might have eagled that and given himself a bit of a jump on the scoreboard, but everything on the line, 250 whatever out, and putting it to nearly a tap in for him anyway. Definitely not for me at 3 feet, but it was incredible.
When Shane Lowry won the Irish Open, obviously in the rain, he was an amateur, and we didn't quite know what an amazing career he was going to have. Harrington had obviously won it in the meantime as well, but it was still kind of when the Irish Open was slightly off Broadway. McIlroy coming back to it, and it being at the K Club, had that bang of big event feel, and so for him to produce his very best in front of the Irish crowd, when we were all talking ourselves into, it's so difficult for the Irish golfers to come and play at their very best, I think it was a real kind of, okay, this guy, look at that talent. Like it's obscene levels of talent that we see on TV, but he's actually doing it in front of us. That's the special bit, I think, about it.
Yeah, and having watched it back, you see how much it means to him as well. Like he's proper fired up for every big moment that he had. He was properly fired up, and I loved I loved that McIlroy. You know, he used to bomb the drive down, and he'd walk past his partner and he'd stand at his ball. You know, he was such a dominant force in golf, and he still is. You know, and it's been amazing to watch his journey and have someone Irish be that prominent in a sport that's clearly global and so difficult to be in the top 100. Never mind in the top 10.
Regardless of the fact that you're in a team sport, James, you must take little modicums of, I guess, enlightenment and you know, things from individual sports people like Rory that maybe you look and say, well, Jesus, clearly their mentality, as you say, going down the stretch, 3 holes to play, when the pressure's most on at his home open, you know, you must take things from that.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of professional sports people love playing golf and tennis, and if you're like individual sports, because it really hones you in and it gives you that same kick of, you know, you're accountable for yourself on this, so it gets the juices flowing from that side of things, and especially in golf, you know, it's just you versus the course. Can be very humbling. I've been humbled a million times over by the golf course, but yeah, we have a few handy golfers in Leinster, so we had good fun over COVID when we had a bit more time to play, and a lot of lads kind of stuck with it and got the bug. What is your own game like? What are your strengths and weaknesses? A lot of weaknesses, not many strengths. I think that'd sum it up.
Is Sexton the best golfer?
He's definitely top 5. I think Frawley, Jordan Larmour, himself, Dan Sheehan, and who else? There'd probably be about 10 or 11 lads who'd be single figures, and the lads I named there would be below 5, in and around 5 or below.
Dan
Frawley
Sheehan.
picked up golf. That's
sickening. Go on, Frawley.
I know, yeah. Yeah, it's another one. So I think Iggy could be off 2 maybe. But yeah, himself and Frawley I think could be the lowest. Frawley only picked it up. We played a golf scramble and he never played before, so we had him ranked 4th. So anyway, he hopped in with the guys who would have been you know, a couple 2 low handicaps and 1 mid-range, and he was the dud. And the lads romped home by about 7 shots, and we were kind of like, she's like 7 winning by 7 shots is a crazy thing. So anyway, he's like, oh, I'm actually all right at this thing. Starts playing, and within a year he was scratch. Now he's come back, I think, a little bit since then, but I've never seen someone take to a sport like he did to golf. But yeah, the Burns, Harry and Ross are also very handy. Yeah, there's a lot of decent golfers.
And post retirement, there's no injury issues. You can go back and play, and there's been no long term. You've no excuses when you're playing golf now, do you?
No, I'm still using the children as an excuse, but that one's, yeah. But I wasn't good before I had them. I wasn't good before I had the injury, so I've plenty of excuses in the back pocket. But yeah, they're wearing thin of my friends anyway.
Jeez, when you're listening to names of Leinster players that are decent golfers, like I'd love to see a Leinster versus Munster charity golfing event at some point. I mean, people would pay to see the likes of that, but you think they're competitive on the rugby pitch. I'd imagine on the golf course it wouldn't calm down that much.
Sure, we could sort that out.
Yeah, exactly. I think we get that going.
Right, if any charities out there want us to do that on their behalf, we'd be more than happy to. Well, let's move on to some rugby ones, okay? So the first one we have here is Jacob Stockdale's chip and chase against the All Blacks in the Aviva. Tell us about this. Why did you pick this? What year is this? 2018, it says there, 17th of November.
Yeah, I just think... I'm sure most people have seen the still shot from above of Aaron Smith hanging out of his legs as he's kind of dotting the ball over the line. I think it was just, for me, a real turning point. Obviously, we'd beaten them in Chicago, and that was kind of a massive point in Irish rugby history. The biggest probably turning point in Irish rugby history, but I wasn't there for that one, so I couldn't have that one in there. I was a whisker away actually. I got pulled in the training session before we went to get on the plane. I was going to be a travelling reserve, and Conor Murray had a tight calf, so they brought Luke McGrath instead. So I missed that one. Didn't get to witness that one. So this is my next best, beating them at home. But I was just, for me, the skill level of Jacob Stockdale's, he's probably the best chip and chaser I've ever seen in my time anyway. His ability to do it and really gather the ball. I'd love to know the stats on it. I genuinely can't remember him. Unless he gets blocked, I can't remember him not regathering it on the other side of the defence. I think they did a 5-man line out. I've seen other teams run the play since, but what they were targeting was the New Zealand backfield and how quickly they kind of left where the line outside was. Aaron Smith was kind of covering in behind in the chip space. So it was thrown to Sexton. He does a switch with Bundy, who throws a phenomenal pass to Stockdale on the run, and he's left with Brodie Retallick in front of him with Sam Whitelock. So a tough enough chip to get it over those two tall fellas, but does a great job. Always seems to get the bounce, and that's a testament to his strike and how much he must practice that action. And anyway, sits up for him, he tears on and he takes it to the house. And I think it was 9-6 at that time, and you know, jitters, everything. It was 47 minutes into the game. That's when you kind of get a bit of separation. The belief starts to build. You're at home, and you're on to win at home on Irish soil against the All Blacks.
2018 Jacob Stockdale was just something else, James, wasn't he? Like that, the levels he reached were iconic.
Unbelievable. And like, he had so many huge moments. I think in over probably like a 4-year period, he was one of the first names on the team sheet, and that moment anyway will live with me forever. I think if you were to give me a moment from Chicago, which I wasn't there for, it would be the Henshaw try with the scrum play. I think Zebo does an unbelievable chase on a kick, leads to, like, it was a scrum. I think they maybe force a knock on off the scrum. Jamie Heaslip kind of runs sideways, and you're thinking, what's he doing here? And he does a switch with Henshaw, who does unbelievable to finish it from there, and he dots it down over his head, and that was kind of the moment we knew we were going to win and have that moment. So we've had a lot of amazing times with Irish rugby recently, and it's just great to appreciate it and take them all in. And as I said, I wasn't there for that one, but I was there for the Stockdale one, and that one kind of lived with me of like, you know, we can actually compete on the world stage, and we are good enough to do this.
You talk about the likes of Rory McIlroy down the, you know, 3 holes to play, you know, hitting a 253-yard drive, but similarly Jacob Stockdale with half an hour left in a game against the All Blacks with so much at stake. I think the game finished at 16-9 in Ireland's favour, according to the graphic we had on screen there. So the game's in the melting pot, and to even conjure up an idea to do a chip and chase, never mind execute it at that point of a game, is something else. So he tried chipping earlier in the game as well and got blocked down. So having the confidence to back himself again, like that would have been a set play where they would have known that the space would have been on in the backfield if everyone did their job. And it's about executing it. Like, as he said, you're all in. It's either it works. Like Brodie Retallick could easily catch that and run the length of the field. He's a freak athlete. So it was incredible show of confidence, ability, and just setting that like tone and getting the momentum going for Ireland as a nation, for our rugby side, and like what crack, you know, the lift it gave everyone. That's like the Aviva was absolutely hopping after that moment, because it's as I said a little bit earlier, it's actually that we can actually do this, you know, we can back it up, and we can beat the All Blacks who for so long were this unbeatable force.
Stockdale was 21 or 22 then. He's still only 27, so there's still plenty of time for him to get back to that form. Is it possible that the injuries are past him now, and that he can actually begin to come back to that level of athleticism and bravery?
100%. I think he's so many attributes, and like sports, it's funny, it can be the best thing in the world and it can be the worst thing in the world, and you know, injuries are just a part and parcel of having a pro career, and it's how you navigate through the highs and the lows, and having the right people around you and setting yourself up for success. And listen, he was one of the best wingers in the world. He's for that period, one of the best Irish wingers of all time. Of course he can. He's done it. So like, of course he can do it again. It's just finding that spark inside himself and getting his confidence going again. And it's momentum from there on. And he's such an asset to have in a team. Even never mind his attacking side of things, but just his kicking alone, he's an absolute cannon of a boot. Which is in the modern day, it's very, very important to be able to exit well against big teams and get down. It's a territory game.
Did you ever have the audacity to try a chip and chase, James, in your story career?
Not quite a chip and chase. I had a very sad, almost very good kick against Cardiff. Come over the back of the line now. I think they were on our 10, maybe. I'm going to say our 22, but it was actually the 10. And ball comes over the top. I catch it and I boot it. Now, 50-22s didn't exist back then, but I'm running anyway after it, and it looks like it's going to dribble out, but it doesn't. And the winger, his name escaped me, Walsh winger. Anyway, I'm thinking he's not going to cut. He's not going to go down the touchline side here. There's only about a half meter of space. He's going to try to go open. So I'm standing waiting for him to go open. Anyway, he beats me up the touchline side. So from going from like being able to get him out after doing my only ever kick pretty much in their 22, he then kicks it, a banana kick from his 22, and it rolls out our 5 meter line. And so I now have a defensive throw from the 5. I'm just like, for God's sake, like what a clanger. Almost unbelievable. And then the biggest clanger ever.
Life comes at you fast.
So yeah, it does. So that was my one of my only kicks, and I don't think I won't get a chance, but I never was bold enough to do it again after that.
And I'm sure nobody ever brought it up either. They're good like that in change rooms.
Yeah, no, that one's forgotten very quickly. Yeah. So and will be forgotten forever.
We actually have one of your games. You played in the first game at the new Aviva when they reopened Lansdowne Road. This was one of those fixtures where it was a combined Leinster Ulster team versus Connacht Munster, slightly unevenly matched sides, it has to be said.
In reflection, yes, but at the time, like, I don't know, who picked who'd go with who, but at the time, we thought we were going in for a war, and it didn't turn out that way. We ended up winning by 80 something points, but yeah, unbelievable to be part of the first kind of, the new Lansdowne Road. And I think a few names have kind of kicked on from then to have good pro careers as well. And then one for the pub quiz is Craig Gilroy scoring the first ever try in the new Aviva Stadium. Paddy Jackson kicked a crossfield kick to him, and he finished it well. And yeah, Craig. He also is probably another one for a pub quiz. Probably the only player to come off the bench and score a hat-trick. He did that against Italy in the Six Nations, and never played for their country again. He was an unbelievable finisher in his time as well, and an incredible player to play with. But yeah, for the pub quiz, he's the first ever player to score in the Aviva Stadium. So I have a butterfly here who's making friends with me. There
you go. It's all right. I thought you were in your stomach thinking about it, but no, it's an actual real butterfly. So this is the official opening of the stadium, and they wanted to make sure that there was a game played before the national side played. I think that was part of it. I'm just looking through the team. So you win 85-0. From your perspective, what was the level of excitement about being involved and being picked and being asked to play? Like, where were you at that stage of your career?
So I was still playing loosehead then, so I would have been very, very early on. It was an exciting time to be part of. One, it was a piece of history of the first game there, but also very unusual that you were like joining with a province. It wasn't like an Ireland camp where you've kind of all the different provinces. You're just joining with one province. You're trying to mesh everything up together and then go on from there. But it was great fun. We had a lot of guys. Ian Henderson was playing that day. I'm trying to think. There, Andy Warwick on the other side. There was like loads of guys who went on to kick on to play good professional careers. But I wouldn't say they probably remember the day as fondly as I did. It was fairly probably the hardest part was running back to the halfway line every couple of minutes, because the likes of Craig Gilroy and Andrew Boyle and a few others, Sam Coughlin-Murray were tearing it up, and yeah, it was one of those easy days to be a forward. And a few good pals of mine, Mark McGrory, I remember, had the game of his life. He went on to have a great career with UCD. But yeah, it was a special one.
I see Tig Leader's name on the opposition. He obviously is involved in getting all those Irish kids over to America to play American football as kickers. So that's another interesting career. Who tapped you on the shoulder and said, right, you're going to be a hooker now? Well, how did that happen?
That was Joe Schmidt. So I was going into my final year in the academy. And realistically, well, now in retrospect, realistically, like I didn't have the frame, but that was what he said to me. Put me into his office, and he was like, do you want to play for Ireland? That was the kind of first line, and I was like, yeah, of course. And he said, well, it won't be at Loosehead. You don't have the frame, and I think you should move to hooker. So I just said, okay, I was a bit shook anyway, kind of talking to the head coach, or a young fella, but he was like, I think you should move to hooker. You will have a chance at doing it there. So that was it. I started throwing that day, and within probably, I think, so that would have been going at the very, very start of pre-season, coming in at the end of pre-season. I played my first game against Munster in a pre-season game at hooker, and kind of went from there. Now I think I've told you before, I probably wasn't comfortable with the ball going out of play for about 3 years, probably 5 years, but it was without him I wouldn't have had a career. So he gave me my first cap also, and my first Ireland cap, so owe him a lot. He moved me position, and he gave me the opportunities. So yeah, very, very lucky to have had Joe, and for him to kind of steer me in the right direction.
It's interesting that it's not surprising that Joe Schmidt had those people skills as well, because so many coaches over the years could just pick their favourites, move on with them, and use them in games. But at least he came to you and said, well, he was honest with you, I guess, and told you what you needed to do to have an international career.
Yeah, and listen, it's I'm not the only one to have done it. Like, if you look at the bench and that amalgamated 15, you'll see Dave Heffernan is a sub back row for that game. So he also went through a similar transition, and has had an unbelievable career for Connacht and Ireland. So it can be done, but it just takes, I'm sure he would say the same, it's probably a lucky one where it's practice, and you can get there. But yeah, very, very lucky to have had, like, he's now the principal in Newbridge College, Pat O'Brien. He actually moved me into the forwards. I was playing scrum half in Naas Rugby Club for the year before I went in, and he was patting me on the shoulder, and he's like, listen, you can play scrum half, but it'll be for the D's, or you can play in the forwards and we'll have you in the A's. And I was like, yeah, I think I'll play in the forwards. So he was the first one to kind of start moving me forward, and then I slowly got moved further and further forward into the front row. That was kind of the next pat in the back was Derek Sherlock, another teacher of mine. He was kind of had the chat with me, been like, would you like to play junior cup in the second year? I was like, yeah, of course, I'd do anything. And he's like, you do anything? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you're going to be playing the front row now. So I was like, okay. So I moved from scrum half to flanker to prop within 2 years, and I haven't looked back since.
Just don't tell the parents until they actually show up to watch the match. Like, I didn't see it. I was in the front row. That was a secret.
Yeah.
In a way, right? I know you talk about being uncomfortable with the ball going out, but having the loose head skills and understanding about the possibility of carrying, presumably that was something that separated you from some of the competition that you would have had as hookers, who had been hookers their whole time, focusing just on technique. I know now, obviously, you look at Dan Sheehan, he's a bit of a freak, but Keller also a bit of a freak. But you would have had the dynamism of a loose head to bring. I guess I'm trying to, in the positive side. The negative is obviously the lack of throwing experience, but on the positive is that, like, there is more dynamism inbuilt in your game.
So I'd say one of the main things that helped was, as a loose head, you go into every game and you're almost having an individual battle with the tight head. It's you versus them. Now, the whole scrum is obviously part of it as well, but it's a lot more individual than, say, hooker, where it's more of a collective. You're more the glue in the middle of the scrum, and you're trying to set everyone up so we can all attack, versus your loose head versus their tight head, and your tight head versus their loose head is a lot more of an individual battle. And I loved that part of it. So it took me a little bit to stop being selfish in the middle at hooker. But once I kind of realised that, and realised that I'd kind of set everyone else first, and then I could be part of the attack. And it made then, some of my favourite parts of and memories I have from playing the game were big scrum penalties. I said before that I loved scrummaging with Cian Healy at tight head as well. I loved loose head, but tight head, because I knew, he wasn't as experienced at it, but he wanted to attack, right, no matter what. So it was kind of holding him back more than anything else. But the satisfaction out of getting a scrum penalty in a big moment, like, you just can't beat it, because especially in hooker, it's because it's a group effort and there's a lot of little things that have to go right for you to do it. But I had that probably ingrained in me from playing loose head and loving that one-on-one battle against whatever tight head I was playing against, and really getting up for it. Every time it was a scrum, you knew you were looking at your opposite tight head and you knew it was go time.
Yeah, that does sound particularly enjoyable when you put it like that. The last one we have here is James Ryan's first touch in professional rugby being a try for Ireland against the USA. I think people have kind of forgotten about the fact that James Ryan is one of those few people in history who played for Ireland before he actually played his first full game for his province. This is all the way back in 2017.
Incredible. So I think Gordon Darcy did it as well. I'm not sure. Do you know if anyone else? Is there anyone else on that list now? It's a very, very, very short list, I think
Bod, I think, played for Ireland before he played for Leinster. I'm not sure. He certainly played for UCD before he played for Ireland, but I'm fairly sure. Did Brian O'Driscoll play for? I don't know. We looked that up.
I thought it was. I thought
you would know
Darcy,
better, I suspect. But go on, yeah.
No, I think it could have been Darcy. I'm not sure about O'Driscoll. But when he came into Leinster and Ireland camp, there was a feeling about him that this guy was something special. And I remember chatting to a few of the kind of the backroom staff about him. Because he came in and he was a kid. He was this big, huge frame, but he was just a scrawny kid. And he was so raw, but his attention to detail straight away, and his understanding of the game, and just his just had something about him. There was just an aura of something special. But he was very unassuming. There was no he wasn't strolling around camp or strolling around Leinster. He was like a student of the game straight away, and he was very inquisitive. To people that he looked up to, he'd always be kind of trying to get little insights and little things of that he could learn. But absolutely incredible to think that someone was he 19, 20 maybe when he did, but for your first touch ever in professional rugby to be a try, it's just kind of set the tone for where he's gone since then. And I think he's probably the most complete second row in the world right now, and I say that from looking at his statistics. His tackle statistics are for the last season were about 97%. Just to give you a benchmark, anything above 91% in most things will be world class. If your throwing was 91%. If your carry of getting over the game line was 91%, usually that's kind of 91% is kind of the baseline for if you want to be world class at anything. If you can get over 91, he's got about 97 with his tackle. His ruck it'd be mid kind of 93, 94. His ruck effectiveness he's probably one of the most dominant tacklers out there in the last kind of year or so. His line out would be in and around the mid 90s, around 94, 95. He's just, and how many balls does he steal in big moments? I think that's probably something we've taken for granted with him because he just keeps doing it, is that he probably comes up with definitely one, if not two, big moments a game where we're back against the wall and he'll come up with a huge line-out steal or line-out disruption. And I think having himself and Peter O'Mahony in our line-out defence is just something that puts a lot of pressure on opposition hookers and callers, because unless you get your drill spot on, you get it in the right area, they're going to get a hand to it, and then your attacking opportunity is going to be gone.
Yeah, I think most Leinster fans would say it's fair to say that we wouldn't have lost the final if he'd stayed on for the whole game, but not to open old wounds here.
Oh, listen, yeah, and the sad thing is we'll never know, but he was having an absolute stormer as well. He was probably the best player on the pitch. I'm not even just saying that because he left. He like his last moment is him smashing Will Skelton. He usually takes about 2 or 3 people to stop him, and James he'd smashed him a couple of times already in the game, and he'd put in a few dominant hits on other guys, but he's in the midst of putting in a huge shot on him and catches a stray knee, unfortunately, and that's his game over.
On the grief curve, I've decided that them losing is going to drive them on to great things at the Rugby World Cup, and Leinster have just taken one for the greater good.
Yeah, exactly. You got to spin on these things into a positive, and you got to bottle up that grief and use it for good, and that's all you can do. Unfortunately, when you lose, especially in a final, you have to just find a way to use it as fuel. But back to James, I think we're so lucky now to have like a few like generationally good second rows, but just players in general, and what a time to be an Irish supporter coming into this World Cup. You have the option of you could have like Byrne and himself in there. You've Henderson, who I think people forget about him because he's probably had a bit of an injury run. He's been one of Ireland's stalwarts for the last maybe 8 years. So like unbelievable player. He's the kind of guy. He gets through a ridiculous amount of work, and you don't really notice it until you watch like the video back and you look at his stats. He's unbelievable. Another man to come up with a big moment. And yeah, like we're lucky to have this sort of strength and depth going into a World Cup.
So we've had it checked. I think Gordon Darcy turned down the opportunity to play for Ireland to do his leaving cert in 1998, which would have meant he was capped beforehand. He didn't make his senior bow for Ireland till a little bit later, and then played for Leinster the next year. But O'Driscoll did play for Ireland before he played for Leinster in 2000. Sorry, not in 2000. But okay. By that stage, it was 98. I think was his
99.
99.
Yeah.
99. He made his debut. Yeah. So illustrious company.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Very good. Yeah. That is, it's nothing short of ridiculous. But like you look at the 3 lads that you just named there, and yeah, they're generationally good players, and yeah, there's no denying why they got the opportunity when they did, because you just got to get these sorts of guys in and get a feel of international rugby, get them comfortable in the environment, and start building them as leaders. But yeah, fair play to. Well, it wouldn't be hard to see the talent and have the foresight to bring them in, but fair play to the coaches that did get them in early, and we all got to reap the rewards of having them part of the Irish and Leinster setups.
James, great stuff. That was a brilliant version of You Had to Be There. Thanks a million. We'll let you get back to the sunshine. Cheers.
Good man. Thanks a million, lads. I'll chat to you soon.
Cheers, James.
It's so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.